This is a city, and this is an Instagram account. What do you think would happen if you combined them? Just for a second, imagine you gave each of your Instagram followers a digital home and a right to vote. How large of a city could you grow, and what would that look like? Well, look no further, because that's exactly what I've been doing for the past year. So here's how it's gonna work. First, we create an Instagram account. Then we post daily updates in the form of animations. If we gain new followers, new houses get added, and if we lose followers, they get removed. And just to add the cherry on top, let's run polls on our Instagram stories to let the population decide on different things they would like to be added to their city. A democracy of sorts, if you will. So can we launch the social experiment already? Well, no. We need to figure out how to make the animations first. In order to make sure the whole project does not crash and burn, here are 4 rules we are going to try to follow. Firstly, we should make it a relatively straightforward process. So if we can make it somewhat easy to do, even on the days we have less time or when feeling sick, it's going to help us in the long run. Secondly, it needs to be scalable. It's hard to tell how large the city could grow. Therefore, accounting for it now should help alleviate any unneeded stress. In hindsight, this is where I should have spent more time, but you'll see that later in the video. Thirdly, despite the first 2 points, it also needs to look somewhat presentable so people's eyes don't bleed looking at it. Lastly, it needs to be affordable. And I'm not talking about the pricing of the city's real estate market. Joining is free. I'm talking about the cost to run the project, the different services and tools that might be needed to make the animations. So with all of that covered, here is how the whole production process looks like. While it's far from perfect, it's seen many improvements along the way and tries to follow the previously set rules. So here it goes. First comes the voice, the backbone of our animation. While the project started out without a voiceover, it most definitely made a huge difference once introduced. If you decide that you need a voiceover for your videos, you really have 3 options. Do it yourself, hire a professional, or use AI. And given our previous criteria, using an AI-generated voice makes the most sense, because the narration simply cannot be done in advance. It quite literally has to be done every day. Which means hiring a voice actor is out of scope, and you can produce better quality and more consistent results than recording it yourself. At least, me anyways. It means you can do the voiceover while inside or outside, no matter the environment, healthy or sick, or while everyone else at your house is sleeping. Moving on. With the voiceover covered, the next step is animation. For animation, I'm using Blender, a free 3D software package. Import the audio and get to animating. Firstly, of course you have to model the building or buildings that you want to add to the city. So, take the default cube, delete it, take another one, and start extruding. Pull this, rotate this, extrude that, pull here, and voila, you have a house. Now repeat that as many times as necessary. Then place them where it makes sense. Connect a road to it, add trees, traffic, and pedestrians. All of this is obviously a bit simplified. It assumes that you've already went through the process of mood boarding and finding references, created a standardized approach to modeling and animating objects, and have a reliable way to structure the work files. And even with all of that, it takes at least an hour for an animation like this to be made just within Blender. Anyhow, after all of that, you hit render and wait. Sometimes for a few minutes, sometimes for a few hours. If you can't wait that long, you send your animation to a cloud rendering service. Once you've got your 3D animation, you bring it to a video editor to add subtitles. Then export again. Make a thumbnail in your favorite image editing software, and you're ready to publish. Simple enough, right? Now repeat that process every day for the next couple 100 days. So let's launch the city. We have the idea, we have the Instagram account, we have the design and animation process figured out. Let's give people the chance to join Statville. Let the masses pour into our utopian city. Or so you would think. Since the goal was to grow our city organically, the Instagram algorithm did not pick up our animation. Not for the first day, not the second, third, or fifth. The first 32 days, Statville did not have a single resident. However, starting the second month, the growth was picking up. And by the end of the third month, Statville's population surpassed 100 residents. And soon after, thanks to a Reddit post, The city's total population reached over 500 people. By day 90, the city already had a school, shopping mall, farm, farmer's market, a park, as well as a river with a hydropower plant. All of them structures that the followers, or should I say residents, voted for on the Instagram stories. This meant choosing what to build and how to build it. This also meant creating many design variations, endless hours of 3D modeling on top of the daily posts, as well as carrying out surveys and running polls, for which there were hundreds and later even tens of thousands of replies. Things were looking up. The city even got a train route at the start of the 4th month. And then, perhaps the inevitable happened. People started leaving. But no matter, we carry on. We don't let that stop us. Statville reaches the 100-day mark. We add a new park, a shopping center, and a nuclear power plant. And after little over 4 months, on day 125, Statville's population reaches a total of 1,000 residents. 1,000 statizens. After this point, the city continues to flourish. New farms open, a kindergarten, school, university, more interconnected transport infrastructure, a second bridge over the river, and to top it all off, an airport opens on day 147. Interestingly enough, not that long after the opening of the airport, the city's population skyrockets. On day 157, the population jumps from 6,000 to 22,000, and the day after, by another 25,000, and the day after, by another 42,000. The expansion is truly unimaginable, with the total population surpassing 100,000 people. What was a small town just a few days ago is now a flourishing city. Which might sound exciting, but behind the scenes, it was pure chaos. Remember what I showed you previously? The design and animation process? Disregarding the anxiety that several 100,000 new eyes viewing your content brings? The workflow also had to change. No more willy-nilly copy-pasting of houses. Now it was time to start counting polygons and starting to radically optimize render settings if I wanted to continue delivering daily animations. At some point, the need for optimization resulted in an attempt to make the whole city building process procedural. I made a whole geometry nodes setup within Blender that allows you to create a city with a few mouse drags and adjust details with different sliders. And while that didn't end up being a part of the workflow for Statville, it still came out quite nifty and fun to play around with. So, if you are familiar with Blender, consider checking it out. The link will be in the description. Anyway, back to the growth. With so many new people joining the city, the community was in desperate need for new public structures in various key areas. So over the next days, Statville opened more railways, a sports center, docks, fire stations, police stations, and more hospitals. Before you know it, the half-year mark was almost here, and the total population had reached 250,000. During this period, the residents had also decided to call themselves statizens. An art school, flooding, science center, solar system themed park, city monument, amusement park, F1 racetrack, and a rat infestation later, I decided to switch to a weekly schedule for the animations. At this point, it was getting rather challenging to single-handedly accommodate the constant growth of what now was a 600,000 people large city by making daily updates in the form of 3D animations. Now, a year into the project, the updates are monthly, and the population is just over 800,000, and the city has seaports, a concert hall, a ski resort, and more trees and cycling paths than ever. But that's not all. This is just a smaller portion of what Statville actually is. You see, all this time I have not mentioned possibly the most impressive part of this city building endeavor. The community itself. I have to admit, this came rather unexpectedly, but it has been the single largest reason for me to continue this project, even through the more challenging days. You see, at first, the idea behind Statville was to see if gamification of a social media account would yield any results. One follower equals one home. Simple. But with the follower number growing, so did the interactions, and the silly social experiment started getting actual depth. Many people started adding their own parts to Statville. By that I mean, either organizing potlucks in the comment section, sharing stories from their day, or discussing the future of the shared digital city. Not that long after the conversations moved from the comment section to creating different business and community accounts role-playing the different aspects of the city. Quite literally hundreds of accounts. A really surreal and heartwarming thing to see your digital city breathe life. with all of it coming to a culmination when a community-run Discord server was created. Thousands of people joining. Think sports clubs, businesses, from fast food to aviation. Quite literally anything and everything you can think of. Quite overwhelming, for me anyways. As you can imagine, there's tons more that could be told about Statville, about the community, lore, and the various lessons that have come out of this experience. But for now, I'll leave you with this. In the spirit of statistics, a list of random infographics encapsulating our digital city. What does the future hold for Statville? For now, it's not clear. The posting schedule might change. Regardless, there is no intention to stop. So if you haven't already, consider joining and check out our other community-driven animation project, Where is the Sun?